Hi there, Year 12. I hope this video finds you well. So what I wanted to do today is just to give you a bit of a heads up for the meeting next week. So we've got a meeting next week, go through the next couple of sheets. I just want to talk to you about what's been done already, and then obviously when we have the live meeting next week, we can have a little discussion about what we're going to talk about today. So I will publish this today. Have a little look at it over the weekend. It'll be very, very short and sweet. Okay, so just to remind you, the pages that you've done so far, this is Melitza's from last year. So what we were looking at really was an in-depth analysis of the three topics that we have been given. Okay, so student living, junior gardener, inspirational structures. Okay. And we're really looking at that, doing that in great detail. So if you look at Melitza's here, and this is a top end sheet, this is really what we're trying to aim for. When you look at this, of course, there are things here that you might well copy, words that you might write that are very similar, aesthetics, colours and trends and textures and stuff. But it really has to be your own analysis, and the more in-depth analysis you can give, the higher the marks you will move up to the top of the bracket. So I cannot emphasize enough that the analysis of the investigation of these themes is so important, but it must be your own work. So just really try and think in detail, either by using the keywords from specifications or how, what, why and when, etc. But try and do that. You can see also she has a nice summary at the bottom, but the great thing to see also on the last sheet, so she's done 3 sheets here, she does have a section here on final thoughts. So the final thoughts section is deciding which of the themes she's going to do and why that might be the case. So she's interested in the outdoor learning, central part of human growth. She has some clients in mind, something that might interest her. And it's really important that from this list, you choose something that is going to be exciting. Okay. We want to try and move away from let's make a desk tidy, let's make a console tidy or something like that. That is really GCSE stuff. We now need to sort of move into bigger, better products, a lot more inspiration, and products that are driven by you and not really driven by me. Okay, so just to pick out a couple of things, just to remind you that we are on an iterative, always a difficult word to say, we are on an iterative design process, which basically means that it's a cycle process. Okay, we're in this at the moment, brainstorming the theme, brainstorming the products, but there's always going to be a cycle process where we're going to keep going back and changing things and looking at other information, making decisions along the way, referring back to our work. So it's a constant ongoing process. It really differs from the linear approach where you do this, and this, and then a product happens. So what we need to see is far more materials testing, product testing, design development, evaluation, analysis, wherever we can. Okay. So I've just picked up some of the sheets that have been done. So this is trays. I don't know if it was finished or not, but I did pick up on trays. Really, really nice sheet. Just be really careful about the sizing of your text and the space that you've got. So if we look at the text here, it's 9 point, which is absolutely fine. Okay, you can even get away with 8 point to a certain extent. Anything smaller than that is going to be quite difficult to read if we have to print it out. But don't forget, these projects are given to the examiner electronically, so he'll have no problem in reading these because he'll look at them on the screen like we will. Now Trey's done a really good job here. What he hasn't done, he has done a summary here. Okay, there's a couple of things you must do. Please do a spell check. Okay, please do a spell check as you go along because you can get hammered for making loads of spelling mistakes. He has done a bit of analysis here, but try and highlight things that are really key. So, if you're highlighting things here, highlight it, underline it, make it bold, highlight it with the highlighter tool, but then refer to that in the summary down the bottom here as well. Okay, that would be really useful. So he's done a good job there. May have done a few more keywords like, you know, aesthetics and like function and ergonomics and stuff like that. That's where the real in-depth analysis comes into. Again, this is pretty good as well. Okay, this is quite nice. But what we haven't got at the end of this sheet is any analysis in terms of which of those themes he's going to choose and why, and that really needs to come down here somewhere. All right, remember target grades, folks. I think looking at the list of target grades, everybody in the group is a C. You know, we want to get higher than that with the coursework. We want to get an A or a B in the coursework to give us a better chance with the exam, depending obviously what happens with grade boundaries next year in terms of COVID and stuff when we return in September. Okay, so more depth, the better the marks. So again, Farhad's here. Again, this is, you know, it's good. We could add more pictures. You know, text here is way too big. Make this smaller. This text here is fine. We could add more pictures along the outside. We've got clients here, but it's quite limited. We've got no products here, possible products. Oh, there is a few here. But again, quite nice. Just create some more pictures in there. And again, a summary on the last sheet would be really good. So that takes us to our next sheet. Okay, so this is what we call planner research and client identification. All right, so please remember that because this is an iterative design process, all right, there are many ways in which you can investigate this context, and these are some of the possible things that you can do. You know, there's no right or wrong answer here. What we're not trying to do is we're not trying to go through a linear process where we do, let's all brainstorm, then we will do a mood board, then we will identify the client, and then we do a survey, then we do existing products, and so on and so forth. Okay, you can go off on your own tangents, you know, however you want to do it, however you want to analyse it. It's very easy to stick to what I'm asking you to do. Okay, but if you want to throw in stuff there that's very different on your sheets, unique, then please do that. Okay, so just going back to this here. So client identification. So we're really looking at doing this section first. Okay, so this section here would be the section I would do first. All right, and this is identifying possible clients that you might use. And you can see last year she's created 4 clients. So a sister primary school, the Aspin Centre at Springfield Primary. Bearing in mind she was doing outdoor learning, so absolutely perfect. And then she's done a plan of what she's going to do. And remember, it's a mixture of primary and secondary, primary being first-hand research, secondary taking existing products and doing something with it. So she's decided she's going to look at the design problems that the students have got. She's going to do some initial sketches, she's going to do a survey, she's going to look at some existing products, and then she's going to look at some work of other designers to give her a bit of inspiration. Okay, and that plan really could come from any of these. All right, could come from any of these areas here. So let's take an example for instance. Okay, so if I'm, so let's say I'm going to do something for a junior gardener. Okay. So who might my client be? Well, my client could well be somebody who is like brother or sister who is younger and, you know, primary school child, and they want to do some gardening as a junior gardener. It could be a primary school where they're looking for some kind of outdoor sort of gardening furniture, almost like where, you know, children can plant some sort of plants into plant pots. Could be sort of a workstation for those. Junior designer, you could be thinking of making like something quite commercial. So you could go to like a local gardening centre and see, you know, what types of products are sold for junior designers, like little spades and little forks and little buckets. You could do the graphics on that, and you could create the products to go in the packaging, and you could work with a local garden centre for that. Okay, give you a bit of commercial sort of feedback. Junior gardener, you could, and this would be really good, thinking about inclusive design. So, and again, thinking about projects that are, really, really inspirational and completely different from what you've done before. So, thinking about inclusive design, this is talking about people who are disabled, visually impaired, people who have difficult mobility or difficult learning skills, or people that short-term memory loss and dyslexia and that sort of thing. Or you could be looking at inclusive design, where you're designing a product for a real diverse sort of community. So going back to your junior designer, so there might be a disabled child that that likes gardening but really struggles with the tools. So having like a real sort of ergonomic spade, an ergonomic fork, really visual sort of colours on it so they can see it properly, creating a package for junior designer for a disabled person. Or somebody could be like a blind person where they can feel the objects and feel the ground. Okay, so really try and think outside the box about what these products could be. A junior designer, you could be sending products to a third world country for a young child to plant and sow something. Okay, just really think about that. So in terms of this sheet, it needs to look like here, client identification, a number of clients, a bit of a summary, and then the plan of what you're going to do, bearing in mind that you've got a list of things here. So this is really your clients, okay? Who are you going to choose? What products do you have in mind? All right, is it better to have my brother or sister who can give me limited feedback, or is it better to work with a school, Ridgeway Centre next to KCA? What's going to be the best for me? And then do some kind of plan of action in terms of what you'd like to do. Look at her sheet by all means, read it, lay it out quite similar, but use your own sort of style and try and head forward. And then what we'll do is, when I speak to you next week, we'll discuss projects. People have thoughts, we'll talk to people and see what their thoughts are with their project. You can see on your work that I have set up the sheet for you, I believe, I hope so. This is Farhad's work. Okay, so you'll see that I've set up the client profile sheet there, and I've also put Melissa's example there, so you can make some progress on that. We'll talk next week about deadlines, and we'll talk next week about project types. Okay, hope that's helpful. Hope that's got your sort of brain thinking, you excited about what you're doing with your project, and then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks very much. Speak to you next week.